I'm not leaving unless you fire me. Those 7 words changed everything when a desperate single father took a job he couldn't afford to lose. He walked into a mansion made of glass and ice, serving a CEO who hadn't smiled in 2 years. She tested him, broke him down, pushed him to quit. But he had a 6-year-old daughter counting on him, and failure wasn't an option. What started as survival became something neither of them expected. Before we begin, hit that like button and comment your city below so I can see how far this story travels. Now, let's dive in. The envelope was thin. Too thin. Ethan Cole held it between his grease-stained fingers, standing under the flickering fluorescent lights of Mike's Auto Repair, and he already knew what it said before he tore it open. The paper inside was crisp, formal, and devastating. Due to restructuring and financial constraints, we regret to inform you that your position has been terminated effective immediately. 15 words. That's all it took to pull the floor out from under his life. He read it twice, then a third time, as if the letters might rearrange themselves into something kinder. They didn't. "Hey, Ethan." Mike appeared from the back office, wiping his hands on a rag that had probably been white once. His expression said he'd been dreading this conversation for days. "Look, man, I'm sorry, I really am. You're the best mechanic I've got, but the numbers just don't—" "It's fine," Ethan interrupted quietly, folding the letter and slipping it into his jacket pocket. His voice was steady, even if his hands weren't. "I understand." He didn't understand, not really, but what good would arguing do? Mike shifted his weight, guilt written across his weathered face. "If things pick up next quarter, you'll be the first person I call. I mean that." Ethan nodded, though they both knew next quarter was a long way off, and rent was due in 11 days. "Yeah, thanks, Mike." He walked out into the Los Angeles afternoon heat, the sun beating down on cracked asphalt and forgotten strip malls. His truck, a 2004 Ford with rust eating through the wheel wells, sat alone in the corner of the lot. He climbed inside, pulled the door shut, and sat in the silence. For 30 seconds, he let himself feel it. The panic, the weight pressing down on his chest, the mental math he'd been doing for weeks that no longer added up. Rent, $1,400. Lily's school tuition, $620, 2 months overdue. Groceries, utilities, gas. His checking account balance, $287. Then he pulled his phone from his pocket and opened his photos. The first image was Lily at the park last Sunday, grinning with a missing front tooth, her dark curls wild in the wind. She'd been spinning on the tire swing, laughing so hard she could barely breathe, and she'd made him promise that they could come back next weekend. He stared at that smile until his breathing steadied. "Okay," he whispered to the empty cab. "Okay, figure it out." He had to. The apartment was quiet when he got home. That wasn't unusual. Lily was still at aftercare until 5:30, but tonight the silence felt heavier. He dropped his keys on the chipped laminate counter and stood in the narrow kitchen, scanning the space like he was seeing it for the first time. Peeling linoleum, a fridge that hummed too loud, water stains on the ceiling from the unit above, a table with one wobbly leg that he'd been meaning to fix for 6 months. This was what he'd been holding together, this tiny broken-down corner of the world where his daughter slept safely every night and believed her father could fix anything. He opened the pantry, half a box of spaghetti, a can of tomato sauce, some crackers, peanut butter, 4 days, maybe 5 if he stretched it. His phone buzzed. A text from the school's billing office. "Your account is now 60 days past due. Please contact us to discuss payment arrangements or Lily may not be able to continue attending." His jaw tightened. He typed back, "I'll have it by the end of the week." A lie. But what else could he say? Another buzz. This one from his landlord. "Rent due March 1st. No exceptions this month, Ethan." He didn't reply to that one. Instead, he sat down at the wobbly table, opened his laptop, and started searching. Craigslist. Indeed. LinkedIn. Anything. Warehouse associate. Night shift. Delivery driver. Must have clean record. Line cook. Experience required. He applied to 12 jobs in 40 minutes, each one a long shot, each one barely enough to cover the basics even if he got them. And none of them started immediately. By the time he picked Lily up from aftercare, his smile was back in place. "Daddy!" She sprinted across the parking lot and crashed into his legs, wrapping her small arms around his waist. "Hey, Bug." He scooped her up, kissed her forehead. "Good day?" "We made volcanoes with baking soda and vinegar and red food coloring, and mine exploded everywhere, and Mrs. Parker said it was the biggest one she'd ever seen." That's my girl, always going big. She chattered the whole drive home, about volcanoes, about her best friend Sophia's new backpack, about the class hamster who escaped and hid in the reading corner. Ethan listened, nodded, asked questions, and didn't let her see the knot in his stomach. At dinner, spaghetti again, she looked up at him with those wide, trusting eyes. "Daddy, can we go to the Science Museum on Saturday? Sophia went last week, and she said they have a whole room about space." He twirled spaghetti around his fork, buying time. "We'll see, Lil. I might have to work." "You always have to work." It wasn't accusatory, just factual, and somehow that made it worse. "I know," he said softly, "but that's how I make sure we have what we need. You get that, right?" She nodded, chewing thoughtfully. "You work hard so we can stay together." His chest tightened. "Exactly." After she went to bed, he sat alone in the dark living room, laptop open, still searching. The glow of the screen was the only light. And then he saw it. Live-in personal assistant needed. Private residence, Beverly Hills. Immediate start. Competitive salary plus room and board. Serious inquiries only. He almost scrolled past it. Beverly Hills wasn't his world. But the words immediate start and room and board made him pause. He clicked. The listing was sparse. No photos. No name. Just a brief description. Seeking reliable, discreet individual to provide full-time assistance to private client. Duties include household management, scheduling, personal support. Must be adaptable, professional, and available 24/7. Prior caregiving experience preferred but not required. Background check mandatory. At the bottom, a single line. Compensation. $4,500 per month, plus private accommodations. Ethan read it 3 times. $4,500. That would cover everything. Rent, tuition, food, everything, and then some. But live-in, 24/7? He glanced toward Lily's bedroom door. She was asleep in there, curled up under her unicorn blanket, trusting that tomorrow would be okay, because Dad always made it okay. He clicked apply before he could talk himself out of it. But she sets. Yes, sound. 2 days later, his phone rang from a number he didn't recognize. "Mr. Cole?" The voice was crisp, professional, female. "This is Simone Reyes calling on behalf of Ms. Victoria Langford. We received your application for the assistant position. Are you still interested?" Ethan sat up straighter. "Yes, absolutely." "Good. Ms. Langford would like to meet with you tomorrow at 2 p.m. I'll text you the address. Please be punctual." "I will. Thank you." The call ended before he could ask any questions. The next afternoon, Ethan stood outside a gate in the Hollywood Hills, staring up at a house that didn't look real. Glass and steel and sharp angles, built into the hillside like something out of a magazine. The gate slid open silently, and he drove his rattling truck up a pristine driveway that probably cost more than his entire yearly salary. A woman in a black suit met him at the door. Simone, presumably. "Mr. Cole, follow me." She led him through a foyer with marble floors and 20-foot ceilings, past rooms that looked like museum exhibits, untouched, perfect, cold. They stopped in a sitting room overlooking the city. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed Los Angeles like a postcard. And then she appeared. Victoria Langford. She moved into the room with controlled precision, her wheelchair almost silent against the polished floor. She was younger than he expected, maybe late 30s, with sharp features, dark hair pulled back severely, and eyes that assessed him in 3 seconds flat. She didn't smile. "Sit," she said. Ethan sat. Victoria positioned herself across from him, hands folded in her lap. Her posture was perfect. Her gaze was unreadable. "You're not what I expected," she said. "What did you expect?" "Someone with experience? A resume that makes sense? References from similar positions?" Ethan met her eyes. "I don't have any of that." "I know. I read your application. Auto mechanic. No formal caregiving background. No degree. She tilted her head slightly. So tell me, Mr. Cole, why should I hire you? He could have lied, could have dressed it up. But something about the way she looked at him, like she'd see through anything false, made him tell the truth. Because I need this job more than anyone else you'll interview, he said quietly. I've got a 6-year-old daughter. I lost my job 3 days ago. We're 2 months behind on her school tuition, rent's due in a week, and I've got maybe 4 days of food in the house. I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to let you down. Because if I do, my kid suffers, and that's not an option. Silence. Victoria's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind her eyes. You have a daughter, she repeated. Yes. And you'd be willing to live here, full time. If it means I can provide for her, yes. She wouldn't live with you. I know. I'd visit her every night, put her to bed, make sure she knows I'm still there. Victoria studied him for a long moment. Then she turned her wheelchair slightly, gazing out at the view. I had 12 people apply for this position, she said. Most of them quit within the first phone call when they realized what the job actually entails. The rest didn't make it past Simone's screening. What does the job entail? She looked back at him. Me. Ethan waited. I don't need someone to pity me, Mr. Cole. I don't need someone to treat me like I'm fragile or inspirational. I need someone competent, reliable, and invisible when necessary. I need someone who won't quit the first time I'm difficult. And I promise you, I will be difficult. I've raised a 6-year-old on my own for 4 years, Ethan said evenly. Difficult doesn't scare me. Take it, a ghost of something. Amusement, respect crossed her face. You won't last a week living in this house, she said calmly. Ethan didn't blink. I'm not leaving unless you fire me. Another silence, longer this time. Then Victoria nodded once. You start Monday. Simone will send you the contract. Read it carefully. Sign it. Be here at 7 a.m. She turned her wheelchair and began to leave. Ms. Langford, Ethan called. She paused. Thank you. She didn't turn around. Don't thank me yet. That night, Ethan sat on the edge of Lily's bed watching her sleep. Her small chest rose and fell, peaceful and trusting. He brushed a curl away from her forehead. I'm going to fix this, he whispered. I promise. Monday morning, he pulled his truck up to that glass mansion again, a duffel bag in the passenger seat containing everything he owned that mattered. Simone met him at the door. Your room is on the 2nd floor, east wing. You'll have your own bathroom. Meals are provided. Your schedule starts immediately. She handed him a tablet with a list of tasks. 6 a.m. Prepare breakfast. Black coffee, 2 scrambled eggs, wheat toast. Plated precisely. 7 a.m. Morning. Physical therapy session. Assist as needed. 8:30 a.m. Review daily schedule. Confirm all appointments. The list went on. Every hour accounted for. Every detail specified. Ethan nodded. Got it. One more thing, Simone said, her voice dropping slightly. Ms. Langford values privacy and precision. Do not ask personal questions. Do not overstep. Do your job. Nothing more. Understood. She left him in the hallway. Ethan stood there for a moment, looking at the mansion around him, the art on the walls, the silence, the cold perfection of it all. Then he got to work. The first 3 days were a test. He knew it immediately. The coffee was too weak. He remade it. Then it was too strong. He adjusted. Breakfast was plated wrong. Toast on the left, not the right. He fixed it without comment. Victoria said nothing, just watched him with those sharp, unreadable eyes, waiting for him to snap, to argue, to fail. He didn't. On the 4th day, she knocked a full glass of water off the table during lunch. It shattered across the marble floor, glass and liquid everywhere. Ethan looked up from where he was setting down her plate. Victoria met his gaze, her expression blank. Clean it up. No apology, no acknowledgement. He grabbed a towel, knelt down, and carefully picked up every shard of glass. He wiped the floor until it gleamed, then he refilled her water and set it down, slightly farther from the edge this time. Thank you, he said quietly. She blinked. For what? For testing me. Now you know I'm not going anywhere. Something shifted in her eyes. Surprise, maybe. or respect. She didn't knock anything over again. By the end of the first week, Ethan had learned the rhythms of the house. Victoria woke at 5:30. She worked out in the private gym for an hour, physical therapy exercises that left her exhausted and silent. Breakfast at 7. Business calls from 8 until noon. Lunch alone. Afternoon meetings, virtual or in person. Dinner at 7. Then she disappeared into her office until late into the night. She rarely smiled, rarely spoke beyond instructions. But Ethan noticed things. The way her hands trembled after a long therapy session. The way she gripped the armrests of her wheelchair when pain spiked. The way she stared out the windows late at night, like she was searching for something she'd lost. He didn't ask. He just learned. Where she kept her pain medication. How she liked her coffee when she was stressed versus when she was focused. The exact angle she preferred her chair position during video calls. He became invisible when she needed space, present when she didn't. And every night, no matter how late, he drove across town to Lily's apartment, where his neighbor, Mrs. Chen, watched her in exchange for help with her groceries, and tucked his daughter into bed. "Did you have a good day, Bug?" "Uh-huh. We learned about fractions. I don't like them." "Nobody does. But you'll get it." "When are you coming home for real?" His chest tightened. "Soon, I promise." He'd read her a story, kiss her forehead, and slip out before she saw the exhaustion on his face. Then he'd drive back to the mansion and fall asleep in a bedroom bigger than his entire old apartment, wondering how long he could keep this up. 3 weeks in, everything changed. It was 2 a.m. Ethan was asleep when he heard it, a sound that didn't belong, a gasp, a choked breath. He was out of bed in seconds, pulling on a shirt as he moved down the hallway. Victoria's bedroom door was cracked open. Light spilled out. He knocked softly. "Ms. Langford?" No answer, just another sharp intake of breath. He pushed the door open. She was in bed, upright, gripping the sheets with white knuckles. Her face was pale, slick with sweat, and her whole body was trembling. "I'm fine," she bit out, though her voice shook. "Leave." Ethan didn't leave. He'd seen this before. Not exactly this, but close enough. Lily, at 3 years old, burning with fever in the middle of the night, her small body convulsing with chills, panic clawing at him while he called the nurse hotline, while he held her, while he waited for the medicine to work. He knew what helplessness looked like, and he knew what it meant to stay anyway. "Tell me what you need," he said quietly, moving closer. "I said leave. I'm not leaving, so tell me what helps." Her jaw clenched. For a moment he thought she'd throw something at him, but then another wave hit and she gasped, doubling forward. "Nerve pain," she managed. "Meds, bathroom, second shelf." He found them, brought them with water, helped her take them with steady hands. "They take 20 minutes to work," she whispered, eyes squeezed shut. "Okay, I'll stay." "You don't have to." "I know." He sat in the chair beside her bed. Didn't touch her, didn't hover, just stayed. For 5 minutes, the only sound was her breathing, ragged, uneven, fighting. Then quietly, he started talking. "Lily, my daughter, she used to get night terrors when she was little. She'd wake up screaming, and nothing I did would calm her down. I'd try holding her, talking to her, turning on lights. Nothing worked." Victoria's eyes opened slightly, listening. "One night, I was so tired I just sat on the floor next to her bed and started describing her room. The lamp is blue. Your stuffed elephant is on the shelf. There's a crack in the ceiling that looks like a river. Just grounding her, reminding her where she was." He smiled faintly. "It worked." She stopped screaming, started breathing slower. "And now, whenever she's scared, I do the same thing. Just describe the world around her until it feels real again." Victoria's breathing had slowed too. The trembling eased just slightly. "Do you want me to do that now?" Ethan asked softly. She hesitated, then nodded. So he did. "You're in your bedroom. The walls are white. There's a painting above the dresser. Abstract. Lots of blues and grays. The windows face east, so the sun will come up in a few hours. The sheets are gray. High thread count. Expensive. A ghost of a smile. You notice the thread count? I do laundry. I notice everything." Her breathing steadied further. "You're safe," Ethan continued. "The pain is temporary. The meds are working. In 15 minutes, you'll feel better. In an hour, you'll sleep. She exhaled slowly. Her grip on the sheets loosened. They sat in silence for a long time. When the pain finally released its hold, she sank back against the pillows, exhausted. "Thank you," she whispered. "Any time." He stood to leave. "Ethan." He paused at the door. It was the first time she'd used his first name. "You didn't have to stay." "I know." "But you did." "Yeah." She looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time since he'd arrived. Why? He thought about Lily, about the promises he'd made, about what it meant to show up, even when it was hard. "Because leaving would have been easier," he said simply, "and I don't do easy anymore." Something in her expression softened. Just a fraction, but enough. "Good night, Ethan." "Good night, Ms. Langford." He closed the door behind him and stood in the hallway, heart still racing. He'd crossed a line tonight, not professionally, but personally. He'd stopped being invisible, and somehow he knew neither of them would forget it. Days? Something shifted. Not dramatically. Not for the coffee. He understood. "You're welcome." Over the following days, something shifted. Not dramatically, but noticeably. She asked him questions, small ones. "How old is your daughter again?" 6. "What's her name?" "Lily." "Does she know where you are?" "She knows I'm working, that I'm making things better for us." Victoria nodded slowly. "Does she understand?" Ethan paused, setting down her breakfast. "She's 6. She understands that Dad's not there every morning. That's enough for her to carry." Silence. Then Victoria said, "You're a good father." It wasn't a question, just a statement. Ethan's throat tightened. "I'm trying to be. That's more than most people do." There was weight in those words. History. He didn't push, but he started to see her differently. Not as the cold, untouchable CEO, but as someone who'd built walls so high she'd forgotten what it felt like when someone climbed them. And for the first time since he'd taken this job, he wondered, what would happen if those walls came down? She usually ate in the dining room or her. She usually ate in the dining room or her office. But today she positioned herself at the island counter and watched him work. "You cook like someone who's done it 1,000 times, she observed. He glanced up, knife pausing mid-slice. "That's because I have. Lily won't eat anything green unless I hide it or make it interesting." "Interesting how?" "Broccoli becomes tiny trees, Von. Spinach gets blended into smoothies with enough berries that she can't taste it." He smiled slightly. "Last week I convinced her that carrots would give her night vision like a superhero." "Did it work?" "She ate 3 servings and spent the evening trying to see in the dark." "So yes." Victoria's lips curved, not quite a smile, but close. "You're strategic. I'm a parent. It's the same thing." She watched him plate the salmon with careful precision, each element positioned exactly as she preferred without him having to ask anymore. "How long have you been raising her alone?" Victoria asked quietly. Ethan's hands stilled for just a moment. Then he continued working. 4 years. Her mom left when Lily was 2. Said she wasn't ready for the responsibility. Haven't heard from her since. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. We're better off." "You don't resent her?" He looked up, meeting Victoria's gaze directly. "Every single day. But not in front of Lily. She doesn't need to carry that." Victoria studied him with those sharp, assessing eyes. "You carry it for her." "That's the job. Being a parent. Being a parent who stays." Something flickered across Victoria's face. Recognition, maybe. Or pain. She looked away, fingers tracing the edge of the counter. "My father left when I was 8, she said, voice carefully neutral. "He said my mother was too demanding, that the expectations were suffocating him. He walked out during dinner and never came back." Ethan set the plate down gently in front of her. "I'm sorry." "Don't be," she echoed his words. "We were better off." Their eyes met. An understanding passed between them, unspoken but solid. "Eat," Ethan said softly, "before it gets cold." For the first time since he'd started working there, Victoria ate in the kitchen while he cleaned up. She didn't say much, but she stayed. And when she left, she paused at the doorway. "Ethan." Yes? You can bring Lily here. On weekends. If you want. His chest tightened. I don't want to impose You're not. This house is too quiet anyway. She didn't look back. Besides, I'd like to meet the girl who eats tiny trees. She left before he could respond. Ethan stood alone in the pristine kitchen, dish towel in his hands, and felt something shift inside his chest. Something that felt dangerously close to hope. That Saturday, Lily walked through the mansion's front door holding Ethan's hand, her eyes wide as planets. "Daddy," she whispered, staring up at the soaring ceiling. "Is this a castle?" Something like that. "Does a princess live here?" Before Ethan could answer, Victoria appeared at the top of the stairs. She descended via the elevator, a sleek, hidden installation that blended seamlessly into the architecture, and approached them with measured calm. Lily stared. Victoria stared back. Then Lily stepped forward, tilted her head, and said with complete six-year-old honesty, "You have really pretty eyes." Victoria blinked. For half a second, she looked genuinely surprised. Then something softened in her expression, something Ethan had never seen before. "Thank you," Victoria said. "So do you." Lily beamed. "I'm Lily. Are you Daddy's boss?" "I am." "Is he doing a good job?" "Because he's really good at fixing things and making breakfast and reading stories with different voices for all the characters." The corner of Victoria's mouth twitched. "He's doing an excellent job." "Good," Lily nodded seriously. "He works really hard." "I know he does." Ethan watched the exchange, throat tight. Two people he cared about, meeting for the first time, and somehow it felt important in a way he couldn't quite name. "Would you like to see the garden?" Victoria asked Lily. "You have a garden?" "A large one, with a fountain." Lily gasped and looked up at Ethan with pleading eyes. "Can I, Daddy? Please?" "If Ms. Langford doesn't mind—" "I don't mind." Victoria looked at Lily. "Come on, I'll show you." She led the way through the glass doors to the backyard, an expansive space with manicured lawns, stone pathways, and a fountain that sparkled in the afternoon sun. Lily ran ahead, her delighted laughter echoing off the walls. Ethan walked beside Victoria, matching her pace. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For this? She's easy to like. She has that effect on people." Victoria watched Lily spin in circles on the grass, arms outstretched like she was trying to hug the sky. "You've done well with her." "I've done my best." "It shows." They stood in companionable silence, watching Lily discover a butterfly and chase it across the lawn with pure, unfiltered joy. "I don't have much experience with children," Victoria admitted. "I never thought, well, it didn't seem like something my life had room for. And now?" She glanced at him. "Now I'm wondering if I was wrong." Before Ethan could respond, Lily came running back, breathless and grinning. "Ms. Langford, do you have any paper? I want to draw you a picture of the fountain so you can remember how pretty it is." Victoria's expression did something complicated, surprise and warmth and a vulnerability she quickly tried to hide. "I'd like that very much. Ethan can get you some from my office." An hour later, Lily sat at the kitchen table, tongue poking out in concentration as she drew with colored pencils. Victoria sat across from her, ostensibly reviewing documents on her tablet, but Ethan noticed her gaze kept drifting to Lily's work. "What are you drawing?" Victoria asked. Lily held up the paper. It was a child's interpretation of the garden: lopsided fountain, oversized flowers, a stick figure in a wheelchair with a crown on her head. "That's you," Lily explained, pointing at the crowned figure. "Because Daddy says you're very important and you help lots of people, so I made you a queen." Victoria stared at the drawing. Her throat worked. When she spoke, her voice was softer than Ethan had ever heard it. "Thank you, Lily. It's beautiful. You can keep it." "I will." And she did. Later that evening, after Ethan had taken Lily home and returned to the mansion, he found the drawing pinned to the wall in Victoria's private office, the first personal item he'd ever seen her display. Over the following weeks, a new rhythm emerged. Lily visited every Saturday. She'd do homework at the kitchen table while Ethan worked, then explore the gardens or watch movies in the theater room, or ask Victoria 1,000 questions about computers and business, and why adults drink coffee if it tastes bad. Victoria, for her part, started emerging from her office more. She'd sit with them during lunch, answer Lily's questions with surprising patience. Once, she even helped Lily with a math worksheet, explaining fractions with a clarity that made Ethan wonder if she'd missed her calling as a teacher. But beneath the surface, tension was building. Ethan noticed it in small ways, the tightness around Victoria's eyes during therapy sessions, the way she gripped her wheelchair when she thought no one was watching, the increasing frequency of those middle-of-the-night episodes when pain dragged her from sleep. He was there for each one, never mentioned it the next day. Just stayed until the medication worked, until her breathing steadied, until she could rest again. One night, after a particularly brutal episode, Victoria looked at him with exhausted eyes and asked, "Why do you do this?" "Do what?" "Stay. When I'm like this, you could just leave the medication and go." Ethan sat back in the chair beside her bed. "Is that what you want?" "No?" The admission came quietly. "But I don't understand why you stay." He thought about how to answer, about all the true things he could say. Finally, he settled on the simplest one. Because no one should be alone when they're hurting. Her eyes shimmered. She looked away quickly, but not before he saw. "My mother used to say pain builds character," she said, voice brittle. "That pushing through it makes you stronger." Your mother was wrong. Victoria's gaze snapped back to him, startled. "Pain doesn't build character," Ethan continued. "How you treat yourself during it does. And letting someone help you isn't weakness. It's trust." Silence stretched between them. "I'm not good at trust," Victoria whispered. "I know. Everyone leaves eventually. I'm still here. For now. For as long as you need me." She studied his face like she was searching for the lie, the catch, the inevitable disappointment. But Ethan held her gaze, steady and sure. "I had a partner once," Victoria said suddenly. "Before the accident. We'd been together 3 years. He proposed the week before it happened." Ethan waited, sensing there was more. "After the surgery, after the doctors said the paralysis was permanent, he visited me in the hospital exactly twice. The second time, he left the ring on my bedside table. Didn't even have the courage to say it to my face." Her laugh was hollow. "I woke up from a nap and it was just there, on a note that said, 'I'm sorry, I can't do this.'" Ethan's jaw tightened. He was a coward. He was honest. "He was a coward," Ethan repeated firmly. "And you deserved better." "Did I?" Victoria's voice cracked slightly. "Maybe he was right. Maybe I'm too much work, too broken, too—" "Stop." Ethan leaned forward, his voice low and intense. "You're not broken. You're dealing with something incredibly difficult, and you're doing it with more strength than most people could manage. That doesn't make you too much. It makes you human." Tears spilled over. Victoria wiped them away angrily, but they kept coming. "I hate this," she choked out. "I hate feeling weak. I hate needing help. I know." Ethan reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he took her hand. "But you're allowed to hate it. You're allowed to be angry, and you're allowed to let someone stay anyway." Her fingers tightened around his. They sat like that until the pain medication pulled her under, until her breathing evened out, and sleep finally claimed her. Ethan stayed another 20 minutes, just to be sure. When he finally returned to his room, dawn was breaking over Los Angeles. He sat on the edge of his bed and realized with startling clarity that somewhere along the way, this had stopped being just a job. He cared about her, not as an employer, as a person. And that was dangerous territory. Just, the shift didn't go unnoticed. Simone cornered him in the hallway one afternoon, her expression unreadable. "You're getting close to her?" she said. Not a question, an observation. Ethan kept his voice neutral. "I'm doing my job. Your job is to assist her, not to become emotionally involved." "I'm not— Yes, you are." Simone's gaze was sharp. "I've worked for Miss Langford for 6 years. I've seen a dozen assistants come and go. None of them lasted more than 3 months because they couldn't handle her standards or her walls. You've lasted 2 months and she's letting you pass both." Ethan didn't know what to say to that. Be careful, Simone continued, her voice softer now. She's been hurt before, badly. If you're not serious about this, about her, it would be kinder to keep your distance now before she gets more attached. I'm not going anywhere. You say that now, but when this becomes complicated, and it will, are you still going to mean it? The question hung in the air. Ethan met Simone's eyes. Yes. She studied him for a long moment, then nodded once. Good, because she needs someone who means it. She walked away, leaving Ethan alone with the weight of her words. That night, he sat in Lily's room while she slept, watching her small chest rise and fall. Mrs. Chen had been wonderful, but Ethan hated that he couldn't be there every night. Hated that Lily fell asleep most evenings without him. His phone buzzed, a text from Victoria. Are you with Lily? He typed back, Yes. Just got here. Good. Tell her good night from me. His chest tightened. He looked down at his daughter's peaceful face and wondered how his life had gotten so complicated so quickly. Another text. Thank you for earlier, for staying. Ethan stared at the words for a long time before responding. Always. He meant it, even if he didn't fully understand what that promise would cost him yet. The breaking point came 3 weeks later. Victoria had a conference in San Francisco, a major industry event where she was scheduled to give the keynote speech. She'd been preparing for weeks, running through her presentation dozens of times, making sure every word was perfect. Ethan helped her pack, arranged the accessible transportation, confirmed every detail of the trip. You don't have to come, Victoria said the night before they were set to leave. Simone usually travels with me for these things. Simone has the flu, Ethan pointed out, and I'm coming. It's 2 days. You should stay with Lily. Mrs. Chen's got Lily covered. You need someone there. Victoria looked like she wanted to argue. Instead, she said quietly, Thank you. The conference was overwhelming. Hundreds of people, constant movement, noise, and networking. Ethan stayed close, running interference when needed, making sure Victoria had space when she needed it and support when she didn't. The keynote went flawlessly. She spoke about innovation, about resilience, about building something meaningful. The audience gave her a standing ovation. Backstage afterward, Victoria's hands were shaking. Ethan handed her water. You were incredible. I thought I was going to forget everything halfway through. You didn't. You owned that room. She drank the water, then looked up at him. I couldn't have done this without you. Yes, you could have. But I didn't have to, because you were here. Something in the air shifted. They were standing too close. The post-adrenaline rush made everything feel heightened, electric. Victoria, Ethan started. Ms. Langford. A voice cut through the moment. A man in an expensive suit approached, hand extended. Richard Chen, Vanguard Capital. That was an inspiring talk. I'd love to discuss potential partnership opportunities. And just like that, the moment shattered. Ethan stepped back into his role, assistant, support, invisible when necessary. He watched Victoria shift seamlessly into CEO mode, all polished charm and strategic conversation. But later that night, back at the hotel, she knocked on his door. Can't sleep? He asked when he opened it. No. She looked exhausted. Can we talk? He let her in. She positioned her wheelchair by the window, staring out at the San Francisco skyline. I've been thinking, she said slowly, about what I'm building, about Rise Again. The foundation. She'd mentioned it before, her plan to create accessible rehabilitation resources for people who couldn't afford them. What about it? I want to launch it, officially, next quarter. That's amazing. I want you to help me run it. Ethan blinked. What? Victoria turned to face him. You understand what it means to need support and not have access to it. You understand what it's like to fight for someone you love. That perspective, that empathy, is what this foundation needs. I'm not qualified. Neither was I when I started my company. You'll learn. She held his gaze. I trust you, Ethan, more than I've trusted anyone in years. I want you as my partner in this, not just my assistant. His heart hammered. Victoria, You don't have to answer now. Think about it. She moved toward the door, then paused. And Ethan, thank you for everything. She left. Ethan stood in the empty hotel room, mind racing. Partner. She'd said partner. This was bigger than a job now, bigger than a paycheck or security for Lily. This was a future he hadn't let himself imagine, and it terrified him as much as it thrilled him. They returned to Los Angeles the next day. When Ethan picked Lily up that evening, she threw herself into his arms. "I missed you, Daddy." "I missed you too, Bug. So much. Mrs. Chen made dumplings, and we watched Moana, and she taught me how to fold paper cranes." "That sounds perfect." Lily pulled back, studying his face with that uncanny 6-year-old perception. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm good. Why?" "You look different, like when you're thinking really hard about something." He kissed her forehead. "Just got a lot on my mind, but I'm always okay when I'm with you." That night, after Lily was asleep, Ethan sat alone in the small apartment, his old apartment, the one he still paid rent on, even though he barely lived there anymore, and tried to think clearly. Victoria was offering him something incredible, a chance to build something meaningful, to use his experience and his heart for something bigger than himself. But it also meant tying his life to hers even more deeply. And somewhere along the way, his feelings had shifted from professional respect to something he couldn't quite name, something that made his chest tight when she smiled, something that made him want to stay not because he had to, but because he wanted to. That was the dangerous part. He pulled out his phone and looked at the last text she'd sent. "Thank you. For earlier. For staying. Always. Always." He'd meant it then. Did he still mean it now? His phone buzzed, another text from Victoria. "Are you still awake?" "Yeah." "Can you come back? I need to talk to you about something." Ethan stared at the message. It was 11 at night. Lily was asleep. Mrs. Chen was in the next room. He should say no, should maintain boundaries, should protect the fragile balance they'd managed to create. Instead, he typed, "On my way." 20 minutes later, he walked into the mansion. Victoria was waiting in the sitting room, backlit by the city lights. "What's wrong?" he asked immediately. "Nothing's wrong. She hesitated, which was unlike her. "I've been thinking about what I said, about the foundation, about wanting you as a partner." Victoria smiled. "Let me finish." She took a breath. "I realized I wasn't being entirely honest about why I want you to stay." Ethan's pulse quickened. "It's not just about the foundation," she continued, voice steady despite the vulnerability in her eyes. "It's because somewhere along the way you became the person I trust most. The person who sees me, really sees me, not just as the CEO or the woman in the wheelchair or someone to be managed. You see all of it, and you stay anyway." His throat tightened. "I don't know what that means," Victoria said quietly, "or where it goes. But I needed you to know. Because if you're going to decide whether to stay, you deserve the whole truth." Ethan crossed the room slowly, knelt down so they were eye level. "I see you," he said, "all of you. And I'm not going anywhere. You keep saying that, because I keep meaning it. Even when it's complicated? Especially then." Her eyes searched his face. Then, slowly, she reached out and touched his cheek, the first time she'd initiated physical contact beyond necessity. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Me too." "Of what?" "That I'll mess this up, that I'll let you down, that I'm not enough for what you need." "Ethan," her voice was fierce, "you're everything I need." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. He covered her hand with his. "Then I'm staying. For the foundation. For this. For you." Something in her expression broke open, relief and fear and hope all tangled together. "Okay," she breathed. "Okay." They stayed like that, foreheads almost touching, the city lights painting them in gold and shadow. And for the first time since his life had fallen apart 2 months ago, Ethan felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be, even if he didn't know yet what that would cost him, or what it would give him in return. The morning after their conversation, everything felt different and exactly the same. Ethan woke at 5:30 like always, made coffee like always, prepared breakfast with the same precision Victoria expected. But when he set the plate in front of her, their eyes met and held for a beat longer than necessary. "Thank you," she said softly. "For the coffee. For last night. For staying. He understood all of it. You're welcome. The foundation work began in earnest the following week. Victoria cleared out a wing of the mansion, transforming it into a workspace. Ethan found himself sitting across from her at a conference table, reviewing architectural plans for accessible rehabilitation centers, discussing funding strategies, learning medical terminology he'd never thought he'd need to know. We need to focus on underserved communities first, Victoria said, marking up a map of Los Angeles with red pen. Places where insurance doesn't cover adequate physical therapy, where people are discharged from hospitals with a pamphlet and zero follow-up. Ethan studied the map. That's most of the city. I know, so we prioritize East LA, South Central, areas where a single facility could serve thousands. What's the timeline? 6 months to secure funding and partnerships, another 6 to break ground on the first center. A year after that, we're operational. That's ambitious. I don't do anything halfway. She looked up at him. Can you handle that pace? Can you? A slight smile. Watch me. They worked late into the night, fueled by coffee and shared purpose. Ethan learned quickly that Victoria in founder mode was different from Victoria in CEO mode. More passionate, more willing to take risks, more alive. Around midnight, she rolled back from the table, rubbing her eyes. We should stop, Ethan said. You've been at this for 14 hours. I'm fine. You're exhausted. She winced, hand going to her lower back. Ethan was beside her in seconds. Pain? Just stiff. It's nothing. It's not nothing. He moved behind her wheelchair. Can I? She hesitated, then nodded. He placed his hands carefully on her shoulders, applying gentle pressure. She tensed at first, then gradually relaxed as he worked the knots from her muscles with steady, practiced movements. Where did you learn this? She asked quietly. YouTube, mostly. After Lily was born, her mom had terrible back pain from carrying her. I learned massage therapy basics to help. He paused. Turns out the skills transferred. I'm not complaining. They fell into comfortable silence. The city glittered beyond the windows, 1,000 lights in the darkness. Ethan, Victoria said after a while, can I ask you something personal? Always. Do you ever regret it, raising Lily alone, giving up whatever life you might have had if things were different? His hands stilled momentarily, then continued their work. Never. Not for a second. Not even when it's hard. Especially not then. The hard parts are what matter. They're where you prove what you're made of. He moved to a different muscle group. Do you regret building your company? All the sacrifices you made for it? No, but sometimes I wonder what I sacrificed without realizing it. Like what? Relationships, friendships, the chance to be something other than driven and successful. Her voice dropped. The chance to be soft. You're soft, Ethan said quietly. You just don't let most people see it. I let you see it. I know. The weight of that admission hung between them. Why? Victoria asked. Why do I feel safe with you? Ethan came around to face her, kneeling so they were level. Because I'm not here for what you can give me. I'm here because of who you are. The brilliant, complicated, difficult, incredible person who builds rehabilitation centers and helps 6-year-olds with math homework and fights through pain in the middle of the night. That's who I see. That's who I stay for. Her eyes shimmered. I've never had that before. You have it now. She reached out, cupping his face with one hand. Her touch was gentle, questioning. Ethan's heart hammered. They were crossing a line here, stepping into territory that couldn't be uncrossed. Is this okay? Victoria whispered. Yes. Are you sure? Because if we do this, everything changes. I know. And you're okay with that? He covered her hand with his. I'm terrified of it, but I'm more terrified of pretending I don't feel this. Feel what? Everything. His voice was raw. Everything about you. Victoria's breath caught. Then, slowly, she leaned forward. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, testing boundaries that had held them separate for months. Then it deepened, and suddenly there was nothing tentative about it. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Victoria's eyes were wide with something between wonder and fear. Oh, she breathed. Yeah, Ethan agreed. Oh. They stared at each other for a long moment. "What do we do now?" Victoria asked. "I have no idea." A startled laugh escaped her. "That's not reassuring." "I know, but it's honest." He stood, then crouched beside her again. "We figure it out, together, one day at a time." "What about Lily?" "What about her?" "She's your priority, as she should be. I won't come between that." Ethan's chest tightened. "You're not coming between anything. You're becoming part of it. If that's what you want. I don't know how to be part of someone's life like that. I don't know how to—" She stopped, struggling with the words. How to what? How to be someone's person. How to let myself need someone. How to be needed without it feeling like pressure. "Then we learn," Ethan said simply. "Together." Victoria studied his face like she was memorizing it. Then she nodded. "Okay, together." They sat in the quiet workspace for another hour, not working, just talking, about fears and hopes and all the messy, complicated things that came with letting someone in. When Ethan finally left to check on Lily, it was nearly 3 a.m. He drove through empty streets, mind racing, heart full of something he hadn't felt in years. Possibility. At the apartment, Mrs. Chen was asleep on the couch. Lily was curled up in her bed, clutching her stuffed elephant. Ethan stood in the doorway, watching her sleep, and felt the weight of his two worlds pressing against each other. His daughter, his responsibility, the life he'd built from nothing, and Victoria, the foundation. This new future, taking shape. How did he balance both? How did he give Lily everything she needed while also building something meaningful with Victoria? His phone buzzed. A text. "Victoria. Thank you for tonight, for all of it. Sleep well." He typed back. "You too." Then added, "No regrets?" Her response came immediately. "Not a single one." Ethan looked at Lily, then at his phone, and made a decision. He wasn't choosing between them. He was choosing both. Whatever that took. Done. The next morning, Ethan sat Lily down at breakfast. "Bug, I need to talk to you about something." She looked up from her cereal, suddenly serious. "Am I in trouble?" "No, baby, nothing like that." He took a breath. "You know how I've been working for Ms. Langford? Living at her house?" "Uh-huh." "Well, things are changing a little. Ms. Langford and I are going to be working on a big project together. Something that helps people who need physical therapy but can't afford it." Lily's brow furrowed. "Like people who got hurt?" "Exactly like that. And it means I'm going to be really busy for a while. But I want you to know nothing is more important to me than you. Not work, not anything. You're always first." "I know that, Daddy." "You do?" "Yeah. Because you always come back. Even when you're tired. Even when it's late. You always come say goodnight." She tilted her head. "Do you love Miss Langford?" Ethan's heart stopped. "What?" "You smile different when you talk about her, like how Prince Eric smiles at Ariel." Out of the mouths of babes. He couldn't lie to her. "I care about her very much. Is that okay?" Lily considered this seriously. "Does she make you happy?" "Yes." "Does she make you sad?" "Sometimes. But the good kind of sad. The kind that means I care." Lily nodded sagely, as if this made perfect sense. "Then it's okay. Because you deserve to be happy too, Daddy. Not just me." Ethan's throat closed up. He pulled her into a hug, holding tight. "When did you get so wise?" he murmured into her hair. "I've always been wise. You just don't listen." He laughed, the sound wet and thick. "I love you, Bug. So much." "I love you too. Can I have more cereal?" And just like that, the moment passed. But something had shifted. Lily had given him permission he hadn't known he needed, to want more, to build more, to be more than just her father, to be a whole person. The foundation work intensified over the following weeks. Victoria threw herself into it with single-minded focus, and Ethan matched her pace. They met with investors, toured potential locations, interviewed physical therapists and rehabilitation specialists. And in the quiet moments between meetings, in the late nights reviewing contracts, in the shared meals and stolen glances, something deepened between them. They didn't define it. didn't put a label on it, but it was there, solid and real. One evening, after a particularly grueling day of negotiations, Victoria asked him to stay for dinner. Not as her assistant, as her guest. They ate on the terrace, the city spread below them like a carpet of stars. "I got an email from my mother today," Victoria said, swirling wine in her glass. Ethan looked up. She rarely mentioned her family. "What did it say?" "She heard about the foundation. Wanted to know if I was wasting my talents on charity work." Victoria's smile was bitter. She suggested I focus on increasing shareholder value instead. "What did you say back?" "Nothing yet. I'm debating between a professional response and telling her exactly where she can file her opinions." "I vote for the second option." Victoria laughed, genuine and surprised. "You're a bad influence." "Someone has to be." He leaned forward. "But seriously, you don't need her approval for this. You're building something incredible." "We're building something incredible." "We are." She set down her wine glass, studying him in the candlelight. "How do you do it?" "Do what?" "Make everything feel possible, like the hard things are worth fighting for." "I learned it from Lily. Kids don't know how to give up. They just keep trying until something works." He paused. "And I learned it from you, too." "From me?" "Watching you fight through pain, watching you refuse to let your circumstances define you, watching you build an empire from a wheelchair and never apologize for taking up space." His voice was soft but fierce. "You taught me that survival isn't enough, that you can want more and fight for it and deserve it." Victoria's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "No one's ever said anything like that to me before." "Then no one's been paying attention." She stood, her legs still unsteady with the braces, but stronger than they'd been months ago, and walked the few steps to his chair. Ethan rose to meet her, hands automatically going to her waist to steady her. "Hi," she whispered. "Hi. I'm going to kiss you now." "I was hoping you would." This kiss was different from the first. No hesitation, no testing. Just certainty and heat and the knowledge that they were in this together, whatever this was. When they broke apart, Victoria rested her forehead against his. "Stay tonight," she said quietly. "Not in the guest room. With me." Ethan's heart raced. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything. I need to call Mrs. Chen, make sure Lily's settled." "Of course." He made the call, keeping his voice steady even though his hands shook slightly. Mrs. Chen assured him everything was fine, that Lily was already asleep, that he should take his time. When he hung up, Victoria was watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "Second thoughts?" she asked. "Not even close." She held out her hand. He took it. They went upstairs together, and for the first time in longer than either could remember, neither of them felt alone. Morning came too soon and not soon enough. Ethan woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and Victoria's head on his chest, her breathing slow and even. He lay still, not wanting to disturb her, just absorbing the moment. This was real. This was happening. He was falling in love with Victoria Langford, maybe had already fallen. The thought should have terrified him. Instead, it felt like coming home. Victoria stirred, blinking awake. When she saw him watching her, a slow smile spread across her face. "Morning," she murmured. "Morning. Any regrets yet?" "Ask me again in 50 years. She laughed, the sound soft and unguarded. "Deal." They lay tangled together for another few minutes before reality reasserted itself. Ethan had to get Lily ready for school. Victoria had a board meeting at 9, but before they separated, she caught his hand. "Ethan, I need to tell you something." His stomach tightened at her tone. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. But there's something you should know. About the job. About your contract." He waited. "It expired 3 weeks ago," Victoria said quietly. "I didn't renew it. I paused your paychecks." Ethan stared at her. "What?" "I wanted to see if you'd leave when the money stopped, if you were staying for the paycheck, or for something else." Her eyes were vulnerable. "I know it was manipulative. I know it was wrong, but I needed to know." His mind reeled. 3 weeks. She'd been testing him for 3 weeks. "Say something," Victoria whispered. Ethan took a breath, processing, then another. "I'm not angry. he said finally. She blinked. You're not? I'm hurt that you didn't trust me, but I understand why you needed proof. He squeezed her hand. Everyone you've ever let in has left, so you tested me. And I'm still here, so now you know. I'm sorry, she said, voice breaking. I should have trusted you sooner. You trust me now. That's what matters. He brought her hand to his lips. But Victoria, I need you to promise me something. Anything. No more tests. If you're scared I'm going to leave, ask me. Talk to me. Don't set up scenarios to catch me failing. We either trust each other or we don't, and I choose trust. She nodded, tears spilling over. I choose trust too. Good. He wiped her tears with his thumb. And for the record, I would have stayed even if you never paid me again. I stayed because of you. Because of Lily getting to run in your garden. Because of the foundation we're building. Because somewhere along the way, this stopped being about survival and started being about living. Victoria pulled him into a fierce kiss, pouring everything she couldn't say into it. When they finally broke apart, she rested her forehead against his. I'll reactivate your contract today. Back pay for the last 3 weeks plus a raise, partner salary for the foundation work. You don't have to. I want to, because you're right. This is about trust, and I'm choosing to show you that I trust you completely. Ethan nodded. Okay. Okay. They got dressed in comfortable silence, stealing glances and small touches. When Ethan finally left to get Lily, Victoria walked him to the door. See you tonight? She asked. Wouldn't miss it. One more kiss, soft and promising, and then he was gone. Well, that afternoon, Ethan picked up Lily from school and took her to the park. She swung high on the swings, fearless and laughing, while he pushed her higher and higher. Daddy, look, I'm flying. I see you, Bug. Do you think Ms. Langford would like to come to the park sometime? Ethan's hands stilled on the swing. You want her to come with us? Yeah, she's nice, and I think she'd like the swings. Her wheelchair. There's that special swing over there, the one with the big seat. She could use that one. Ethan looked where Lily pointed. Sure enough, there was an accessible swing designed for wheelchairs. His daughter. Always seeing solutions where he saw obstacles. That's a really good idea, Lil. So can we invite her? Yeah, we can invite her. Lily beamed. Good. Because I think she's lonely sometimes, like she needs more people to love her. Out of the mouths of babes, indeed. That night, Ethan mentioned Lily's invitation to Victoria. He expected her to politely decline, to say it was too public, too complicated. Instead, she said, I'd love to. So the following Saturday, the three of them went to the park together. Victoria in her wheelchair, Lily running ahead, Ethan walking beside them both. People stared. They always did. But Victoria held her head high, and Lily held Victoria's hand, and Ethan felt something settle in his chest. This was his family now, not traditional, not what he'd expected, but real and worth fighting for. At the accessible swing, Ethan helped Victoria transfer. She was nervous at first, but Lily's encouragement was infectious. It's fun, I promise. You'll love it. And when Ethan pushed her gently, when Victoria felt the movement in the air and Lily's delighted laughter beside her, she threw her head back and laughed too. Free, joyful, whole. Ethan stood back and watched the two most important people in his life swinging side by side and felt tears prick his eyes. This was what he'd been fighting for all along, not just survival, not just stability, but this feeling, this wholeness, this family. Later, walking back to the car, Lily between them holding both their hands, Victoria looked over at Ethan. Thank you, she said softly. For what? For this. For seeing me as someone who could have this. Always, he promised. And he meant it, even when he didn't know yet that their biggest test was still coming. That trust would be challenged in ways neither of them expected, that staying would require more than either of them had given before. But in that moment, walking through the park with his daughter and the woman he loved, Ethan Cole felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. And for now, that was enough. Hope lasted exactly 3 weeks. Then reality came crashing down in the form of a phone call at 2 p.m. Ethan was in the foundation office reviewing contractor bids when his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Mr. Cole? A woman's voice, professional and cool. This is Jennifer Martinez from Bright Horizons Academy. I'm calling about Lily. His stomach dropped. Is she okay? Is she hurt? She's fine physically, but we need you to come pick her up. There's been an incident. What kind of incident? I'd prefer to discuss it in person. How soon can you be here? Ethan was already grabbing his keys. 15 minutes? He found Victoria in the main house on a conference call. She took one look at his face and immediately muted her line. What's wrong? Lily's school called. Something happened. I have to go. Do you need me to come? No, He stopped, the automatic deflection, the habit of handling everything alone. Actually, yes, if you can. Victoria ended her call without hesitation. Let's go. They made it to the school in 12 minutes. Ethan's hands were white-knuckled on the steering wheel the entire drive, mind racing through worst-case scenarios. The principal's office was familiar territory. He'd been here for enrollment, for parent-teacher conferences, for the occasional forgotten lunchbox. But walking in now, with the principal's serious expression and Lily sitting small and quiet in a chair, felt entirely different. Mr. Cole, Miss Langford, Principal Martinez gestured to the seats across from her desk. Thank you for coming so quickly. Ethan immediately went to Lily, kneeling beside her chair. Hey, Bug, you okay? She nodded, but didn't meet his eyes. Her hands were folded tight in her lap. What happened? Ethan asked, looking up at the principal. Martinez folded her hands on the desk. Lily got into an altercation with another student during lunch. She pushed him, and he fell and scraped his knee. We have a zero-tolerance policy for physical aggression. Lily pushed someone? Ethan couldn't keep the disbelief from his voice. His daughter, who cried when she accidentally stepped on a bug, who apologized to furniture when she bumped into it. The other child is fine, Martinez continued. But this is serious, Mr. Cole. We need to discuss appropriate consequences. Can I talk to her first? Find out what actually happened? Martinez hesitated, then nodded. Of course. Take a few minutes. Victoria wheeled back slightly, giving them space but staying present. Ethan turned to Lily, tilting her chin up gently so she had to look at him. Talk to me, Bug. What happened? Lily's eyes filled with tears. I didn't mean to push him hard. I just wanted him to stop. Stop what? He was being mean about you. Ethan's chest tightened. What did he say? He said, her voice broke. He said you were poor, and that's why I don't have a mom, and that's why you have to work for rich people because we're not good enough to have our own house. The words hit like a physical blow. And I told him to be quiet, Lily continued, tears streaming now. But he kept saying it, that we're nobodies, that you're just a servant. So I pushed him and told him my daddy is the best person in the whole world, and he doesn't know anything. Ethan pulled her into his arms, holding tight while she sobbed against his shoulder. Over her head, he saw Victoria's expression, fury and pain and something protective and fierce. You did the right thing standing up for yourself, Ethan murmured into Lily's hair. But we use words, not hands. Even when someone's being cruel. You know that, right? I know, she hiccuped. I'm sorry, Daddy. I'm sorry I got in trouble. I'm not mad at you, Bug. I'm proud of you for defending us. But we have to find better ways, okay? She nodded against his chest. Ethan looked at Principal Martinez. What's the consequence? 3-day suspension, and Lily will need to apologize to the other student. She'll apologize, Ethan said firmly. But I want to know what's being done about the bullying, because what that kid said was unacceptable. Martinez shifted uncomfortably. Children sometimes say thoughtless things. That wasn't thoughtless. That was cruel. Victoria's voice cut through the room, sharp and commanding. And if your school's policy is to punish the victim of bullying for defending herself while doing nothing about the bully, then we have a serious problem. Martinez blinked, clearly not used to being challenged. Ms. Langford, I assure you we take all incidents seriously. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, you called Lily's father in here to discipline her for responding to sustained harassment. Where's the other child's parents? What consequences are they facing? The circumstances are different. The circumstances are that a child was being verbally abused and she defended herself. Imperfectly, Yes, but the root cause isn't being addressed. Ethan watched Victoria advocate for his daughter with the same fierce intelligence she brought to boardrooms, and something in his chest expanded almost painfully. Martinez cleared her throat. I'll speak with the other student and his parents, and we'll review our anti-bullying protocols. See that you do, Victoria said coolly. And the suspension? Policy requires, then we'll take the 3 days. But I want documentation of what steps the school is taking to ensure this doesn't happen again. In writing, by tomorrow. Martinez nodded stiffly. Of course. Outside the school, Lily walked between them quietly, hand in Ethan's. When they reached the car, she looked up at Victoria. Thank you for being mad for me. Victoria's expression softened immediately. Always, sweetheart. What that boy said was wrong, and you deserved someone to say so. Are you mad at me for pushing him? No, but your dad's right. Next time you get a teacher first. Deal? Deal. In the car, Lily fell asleep almost immediately, exhausted from crying. Ethan drove in silence, processing everything. You were incredible in there, he said finally. Victoria shook her head. I was furious. Still am. That school failed her. Most people would have stayed quiet, let the principal handle it. I'm not most people. And Lily's... She paused. She matters to me. I know. I saw. They drove for another few minutes before Victoria said quietly, the things that boy said, about you being a servant, about not being good enough. Kids are cruel. Adults are worse. They teach kids to think that way. She turned to look at him. Do you ever feel that way? Working for me? No, Ethan said immediately. Then, more honestly, maybe at first, when this was just a job, but not anymore. Now we're partners. Some people won't see it that way. They'll see a CEO and her assistant. They'll make assumptions. Let them. I know what we are. Do you? Victoria's voice was small. Because sometimes I'm not sure I do. I know what I feel, but I don't know how to name it. Ethan pulled over into a parking lot, put the car in park, and turned to face her fully. I love you, he said simply. I'm in love with you. That's what this is. Victoria's breath caught. Ethan, you don't have to say it back. I'm not asking you to. I just need you to know. So there's no confusion, no assumptions. I love you, all of you. The brilliant CEO, and the scared woman, and the person who defended my daughter like she was your own. I love all of it. Tears spilled down Victoria's cheeks. I don't know if I know how to love someone properly. Everyone I've ever loved has left or I've pushed them away. I don't know if I can be what you need. You already are. You showed up today. You fought for Lily. You chose to be here instead of in a meeting you could have stayed in. That's love, Victoria. That's exactly what we need. She reached for his hand, gripping it tight. I'm terrified of this. Me too. What if I mess it up? Then we'll fix it, together. Victoria looked back at Lily, sleeping peacefully in the back seat, then back at Ethan. When she spoke, her voice was steady despite the tears. I love you too. I don't know when it happened or how, but I do. I love you, and I love that fierce little girl, and I want to be part of this. Really part of it, not just weekends and stolen moments, all of it. Ethan leaned across the console and kissed her, soft and sure. When they pulled apart, he rested his forehead against hers. Then let's figure out what that looks like. Okay, she whispered. Okay. They sat like that for a long moment before Lily stirred in the back seat. Are we home yet? She mumbled sleepily. Ethan looked at Victoria. Home. The question was more complicated than it used to be. Almost, Bug, he said. Almost. Bottom. The 3-day suspension became a turning point. Ethan took the time off from foundation work to stay with Lily. Victoria joined them when she could, rearranging her schedule in ways she never had before. They spent a day at the beach, building sand castles and collecting shells. Lily buried Ethan's feet in sand while Victoria supervised, laughing when he pretended he was stuck forever. Help! I'm trapped. What will I do? You have to give us ice cream, Lily declared. Then we'll dig you out. That's extortion. I don't know that word, but okay. Victoria laughed so hard she had tears in her eyes. Ethan, half buried in sand with his daughter dancing around him and the woman he loved beside him, thought this might be what happiness actually felt like. That night, after Lily went to bed at the mansion, she'd been staying there during the suspension, Victoria and Ethan sat on the terrace under the stars. "I've been thinking," Victoria said slowly, "about what comes next. For us." Ethan's heart rate picked up. "What do you mean?" "Lily can't keep splitting time between your old apartment and here. It's not fair to her. And Mrs. Chen, wonderful as she is, shouldn't have to be her primary caregiver when you're right here." "I know. I've been trying to figure out the logistics. Move in. Officially, both of you." Ethan stared at her. "Victoria, I know it's fast, I know it's complicated, but we're already doing this. We're already a family in all the ways that matter, so why are we pretending otherwise? Because moving in together is huge, especially with a kid involved. If things don't work out, they will." "You can't know that." "No," Victoria agreed, "but I can choose to believe it. I can choose to fight for it, can't you?" Ethan thought about Lily, about stability, about the life he'd been trying to build for her. Then he thought about the past 3 days, the ease of it, the rightness of waking up in the same house, having breakfast together, being a unit. "What about school?" he asked. "Lily's enrolled in her current district. We'll transfer her. There's an excellent school 10 minutes from here, better resources, smaller class sizes, actual anti-bullying protocols. That's a lot of change for her. So we do it carefully. We talk to her, make sure she's comfortable, give her control where we can." Victoria reached for his hand. "But Ethan, she already thinks of this as home. She told me yesterday that her room here is her favorite room in the whole world." "She said that?" "While showing me her collection of rocks from the garden. She's got them organized by color and size. It was very serious business." Ethan laughed despite himself. "She does love those rocks. So what do you say? Make it official. Build this life together." He looked at Victoria, brilliant, complicated, brave Victoria, who was offering him everything he'd been too afraid to ask for. "Yes," he said. "Yes, let's do it." Her smile was radiant. "Yeah?" "Yeah, but we tell Lily together. Make sure she knows this is her choice too." "Agreed." They told her the next morning over pancakes. Lily listened seriously as they explained how they loved each other, how they wanted to be a family, how she would have her own room and could bring all her things and decorate however she wanted. "What about Mrs. Chen?" Lily asked. "Will she be sad?" "We'll still visit her," Ethan promised. "She's our friend. We don't stop being friends with people just because we move." "And what about my school? Sophia's there." "We can arrange play dates with Sophia whenever you want," Victoria said gently. "But there's a new school nearby that I think you might like. They have a science lab and a garden and a really good art program." Lily considered this. "Can I think about it?" "Of course." She thought for exactly 30 seconds. Then she looked up at them with those wide, serious eyes. "Okay, but I want to paint my room purple, and I want a desk for homework. And can we get a dog?" Ethan and Victoria exchanged glances. "Purple room and desk, yes," Ethan said. "Dog, we'll discuss." "That means no." "That means maybe eventually." "Fine." Lily took another bite of pancake. "When do we move?" Just like that, simple as breathing. Victoria reached under the table and squeezed Ethan's hand. They were really doing this. The move happened over 2 weeks. Ethan packed up the small apartment, 4 years of his life and Lily's fitting into a dozen boxes. It should have felt sad, but instead it felt like shedding skin that no longer fit. Victoria hired movers, but Ethan insisted on packing Lily's room himself. Every toy, every drawing, every rock from every park they'd ever visited. These were pieces of his daughter's history, and they deserved care. On the last day, standing in the empty apartment, Ethan took one final look around. This was where he'd held Lily when she cried for her mother, where he'd taught her to tie her shoes and read her first words, where he'd survived job loss and poverty and fear. "Thank you," he whispered to the empty rooms, "for keeping us safe." Then he locked the door and drove toward his future. At the mansion, Lily's new room was ready. Victoria had worked with an interior designer to create something special. Purple walls like Lily wanted, but also glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling, built-in bookshelves, a window seat overlooking the garden, and a desk positioned perfectly for homework and art projects. Lily walked in and gasped. "It's like a princess room." "Your room," Victoria corrected gently. "Decorated exactly how you wanted." Lily threw her arms around Victoria's waist. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Victoria's arms came around her automatically, and over Lily's head her eyes met Ethan's. The vulnerability there, the wonder at being trusted with this child's happiness, made his chest ache. That night, Ethan tucked Lily into her new bed. She clutched her stuffed elephant, looking small in the bigger space. "Daddy, is this really our home now?" "Really and truly. Forever? For as long as we want it to be." She was quiet for a moment, then, "I like it here. It feels safe." "Good. That's exactly how it should feel." "And Daddy, I like having Victoria. She makes you smile more." "She makes me happy." "Good. You deserve to be happy." She yawned hugely. "Love you, Daddy." "Love you too, Bug. Sleep tight." He kissed her forehead and stood to leave, but her voice stopped him at the door. "Daddy, will Victoria tuck me in sometimes too, if you're busy?" Ethan's throat tightened. "Would you like that?" "Yeah, I think I would." "Then I'll ask her." "But Bug? You can ask her yourself too. She'd like that." Lily smiled sleepily. "Okay. Good night, Daddy." "Good night, sweetheart." He found Victoria in their room, not just hers anymore, standing by the window. "She settled?" Victoria asked. "She's good. But she asked me something. She wants to know if you'd tuck her in sometimes when I can't." Victoria turned, eyes wide. "She wants that?" "She does. What if I do it wrong?" Ethan crossed the room and pulled her into his arms. "There's no wrong way to love a child who wants to be loved. Just be yourself. That's all she needs." Victoria buried her face in his shoulder. "This is terrifying." "I know. And wonderful." "I know that too." They stood like that for a long time, holding each other in the quiet house, their daughter sleeping down the hall. This was real now. This was their life. And despite all the fear, all the uncertainty, all the ways this could go wrong, Ethan had never been more sure of anything. They were exactly where they were supposed to be. 2 months into their new normal, the foundation broke ground on its first rehabilitation center. The ceremony was small but meaningful. Local officials, a few reporters, the construction crew, and the three of them standing together as Victoria drove the first ceremonial shovel into the earth. Lily cheered from Ethan's shoulders, waving a sign she'd made that read, "Rise Again," in rainbow letters. A photographer caught the moment. Victoria in her wheelchair, hand on the shovel, looking up at Ethan and Lily with an expression of pure joy. That photo would later become the foundation's official image, plastered on websites and brochures and annual reports. But in the moment, it was just them, building something real, building something that mattered. That night, after Lily was asleep, Victoria showed Ethan something she'd been working on. "I want to establish a scholarship," she said, pulling up documents on her tablet. "For single parents pursuing education or career changes, cover tuition, childcare costs, living expenses. Everything that makes it impossible for people like you to take risks." Ethan stared at the proposal. "Victoria, this is incredible. It's necessary. You were brilliant with engines, but you had to take whatever job you could get because Lily needed stability. How many other talented people are stuck in the same position? How much potential is wasted because the system doesn't support parents trying to build better lives? What are you going to call it?" She looked at him with soft eyes. "The Lily Cole Foundation Scholarship Program, if that's okay with you." His vision blurred. "You want to name it after her?" "She's the reason you kept fighting. The reason you took a job that terrified you and stuck with it when I tried to make you quit. She's the heart of this whole story." Victoria's voice was thick with emotion. "And I love her. So yes, I want to name it after her." Ethan pulled Victoria into his arms and held on tight. "She's going to lose her mind when we tell her," he managed. "Good. She deserves to know how extraordinary she is." They told Lily over breakfast. She listened with wide eyes as Victoria explained about the scholarship, about how other kids with single parents would be able to go to better schools, and their parents could learn new careers. "Because of me?" Lily asked, awed. Because of you, Victoria confirmed. Because you inspire us to be better. Lily thought about this very seriously. Then she said, Can we help pick the families? I want to make sure the kids get good parents who stay, like Daddy. Victoria's eyes filled. Yes, sweetheart, we can absolutely do that. Lily nodded, satisfied. Then she went back to her cereal like they'd just discussed something as simple as the weather. Ethan and Victoria looked at each other across the table, and both of them were crying and laughing at the same time. This was their family. Imperfect and complicated and absolutely right. And 3 months after he'd walked through Victoria Langford's door with nothing but desperation and determination, Ethan Cole finally understood what he'd been searching for all along. Not just security, not just survival, but a place where he and his daughter belonged completely, where they were chosen, where they were home. The call came on a Tuesday morning in late spring, 6 months after they'd become a family. Ethan was making breakfast when his phone rang. Dr. Chen, Victoria's physical therapist. He answered immediately, something cold sliding down his spine. Ethan, it's about Victoria's latest scans. Can you both come to the clinic this afternoon, 2 o'clock? What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Just bring her in, okay? Both of you. The line went dead. Ethan stood frozen in the kitchen, pancake batter dripping from the spoon in his hand. Victoria appeared in the doorway, already dressed for the day. Who was that? She asked, then saw his face. What happened? Dr. Chen wants us at the clinic, 2 o'clock. Victoria's expression went carefully blank. Did he say why? No, just that we should both be there. They looked at each other, and Ethan saw his own fear reflected in her eyes. 6 months of progress. 6 months of therapy and hope and building a life together. What if something had changed? What if the damage was progressing? It could be good news, Victoria said, but her voice was thin. It could be. Neither of them believed it. They went through the motions of the day. Lily off to school with promises to pick her up at 3. Foundation meetings that neither of them could focus on. Lunch that neither of them ate. At 1:30, they drove to the clinic in silence. Dr. Chen met them in his office, a slight man with kind eyes and steady hands. He'd been Victoria's therapist since the accident, walking her through 2 years of pain and incremental progress. Thank you for coming, he said, gesturing them to chairs. I wanted to discuss Victoria's latest imaging results. Victoria's hands gripped her wheelchair armrests. Ethan reached over and covered one of her hands with his. Dr. Chen pulled up scans on his computer screen. When you first came to me, the damage to your spinal cord was significant. We've been monitoring for any changes, any progression of the injury. And? Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. And the inflammation that was present 2 years ago has decreased substantially. The nerve pathways we thought were permanently damaged are showing signs of healing. Not complete healing, but enough that I believe with intensive therapy you could regain significant function. Silence crashed over the room. What does that mean? Ethan asked when Victoria couldn't speak. It means she might walk again. Not immediately, not without a lot of work, but the potential is there in ways it wasn't before. Victoria made a sound, half laugh, half sob. That's not possible. They told me the damage was permanent, that I'd never... The human body surprises us sometimes, Dr. Chen said gently. Your dedication to physical therapy, the lifestyle changes you've made, the reduction in stress, all of it has created an environment for healing we didn't think was possible. Tears streamed down Victoria's face. Ethan's weren't far behind. What's the next step? He managed. Intensive therapy. 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. It'll be grueling, painful, and there are no guarantees. But if you're willing to fight for it, Victoria, I think we have a real chance here. Victoria looked at Ethan, eyes swimming. I don't know if I can do this again. What if I try and it doesn't work? What if I get my hopes up and try it? Then we'll deal with it, Ethan said firmly. Together. But what if it does work? What if you try and it changes everything? You'll be with me? Through all of it? Every single day. She turned back to Dr. Chen, wiping her eyes. When do we start? Next Monday. If you're ready. Victoria took a shaky breath. I'm ready. They left the clinic in a daze. In the car, Victoria broke down completely, sobbing into her hands while Ethan held her as best he could across the console. "I'm so scared," she choked out. "I know, baby, I know. What if I can't do it? What if I'm not strong enough? You're the strongest person I've ever met, and you won't be doing it alone." She clung to him, and he let her cry until there were no tears left. Then they drove to pick up Lily, who took one look at their faces and asked, "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong, sweetheart," Victoria said, voice still thick. "Something really good happened. I'll tell you about it at home." At dinner, they explained it to Lily in terms she could understand, that Victoria's body was healing in ways the doctors didn't expect, that she was going to work very hard to learn to walk better, that it would take a long time and be difficult. Lily listened with her serious face on. Then she said, "Can I help?" Victoria's face crumpled again. "How would you help?" "I can cheer for you and make you cards when you're tired and tell you stories to make you feel better. That's what Daddy does for me when I'm sick." "That would help so much," Victoria managed. "Good." Lily nodded decisively. "Then I'll do it every day." That night, after Lily was asleep, Ethan and Victoria lay tangled together in bed. "I keep thinking about what Dr. Chen said," Victoria murmured, "about the reduction in stress, about the lifestyle changes." "What about them?" "You did that. You and Lily. You gave me something worth healing for." She turned to face him in the darkness. "Before you, I was just surviving, going through the motions, building things because it was what I knew how to do. But I wasn't living. I wasn't happy. And now? Now I wake up and there's Lily asking me to help with her homework, and you making terrible jokes while you cook breakfast, and the foundation actually helping people instead of just being another line on my resume. Now I have reasons to fight, real ones." Ethan kissed her softly. "Then we'll fight together, whatever it takes. Promise?" "Promise." Monday came too quickly and not quickly enough. The therapy room was familiar. Victoria had been coming here twice a week for months. But this felt different, more intense, more important. Dr. Chen had brought in additional specialists. The parallel bars were positioned and waiting. Equipment lined the walls that Ethan didn't recognize. "We're going to start slowly," Dr. Chen explained. "Building strength, teaching your body to remember movements it's forgotten. Some days will show progress, some won't. The key is consistency." Victoria nodded, jaw set with determination. Ethan stayed for that first session, watching as they worked her through exercises that looked simple but left her shaking and exhausted. Standing exercises with full support, weight shifting, tiny movements that required enormous effort. After 90 minutes, Victoria was drenched in sweat and fighting tears of frustration. "I can't," she gasped. "I can't do any more." "You can," Dr. Chen said calmly. 5 more minutes, then we're done for today." "I said I can't. I know it hurts. I know you're exhausted. 5 more minutes." Victoria's eyes found Ethan's across the room. He saw the pain there, the exhaustion, the fear. He walked over and knelt beside where she stood, supported by the bars and 2 therapists. "You've got this," he said quietly. "I know it's hard, but you're not alone. I'm right here." "It hurts so much," she whispered. "I know, but pain means you're fighting, and you're the best fighter I know." She took a shuddering breath. Then another. 5 minutes? 5 minutes. Then we go home and I'll make that pasta you love and we'll watch Lily's school play rehearsal video for the 100th time. A ghost of a smile. She does love that video. She really does. 5 minutes, Victoria. You can do anything for 5 minutes. She nodded, gripped the bars tighter, and finished the session. In the car afterward, she was silent, staring out the window with hollow eyes. "Talk to me," Ethan said gently. "I forgot how hard this is, how much it takes out of you, how demoralizing it is to work that hard for movements most people don't even think about." "I know." "Do you? Do you really?" There was an edge to her voice, pain and frustration looking for an outlet. "No," Ethan admitted. "I don't. I can't know what this feels like for you, but I know what it's like to fight for something when you're exhausted and scared and not sure it's going to work. And I know you're not doing it alone." Victoria's shoulders sagged. "I'm sorry, I'm not angry at you. I'm just angry, scared, hurting, all of it. You're allowed to feel all of it. Even the ugly parts?" especially those. She reached for his hand, threading their fingers together. Thank you for staying, for not running when I'm like this. Where else would I be? The weeks that followed were brutal. Victoria threw herself into therapy with the same intensity she brought to everything else. 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, pushing through pain that left her gasping and frustration that made her want to quit. There were good days. Days when she stood a few seconds longer, when her legs remembered a movement they'd forgotten, when progress felt tangible and real. And there were bad days. Days when nothing worked, when her body refused to cooperate, when she cried from pain and exhaustion and felt like giving up. Ethan was there for all of it, driving her to appointments, holding her when she broke down, celebrating tiny victories that no one else would understand, and Lily kept her promise. Every afternoon when Victoria came home from therapy, there was a new card waiting, crayon drawings of Victoria standing tall, messages in 6-year-old handwriting. You can do it. You're so strong. I love you. Victoria kept every single one, pinned to a board in the therapy room at home. 2 months into intensive therapy, Victoria stood at the parallel bars, without her leg braces, without full support, for 45 seconds. Dr. Chen and his team applauded. Ethan, watching from the corner, had tears streaming down his face. That night, Victoria stood in their bedroom while Ethan watched, using only a cane for balance. Her legs shook. Her face was tight with concentration, but she stood. Look at you, Ethan whispered. I'm doing it, she breathed, wonder in her voice. I'm actually doing it. You are. You're incredible. She took one step, then another. 3 steps total before her legs gave out, and Ethan caught her, lowering her gently to sit on the bed. Victoria was laughing and crying at the same time. Did you see that? Did you see? I saw 3 steps. 3 steps! She grabbed his face and kissed him hard. 3 steps, Ethan. Just the beginning, he said against her lips. Just the beginning. The breakthrough came 4 months into intensive therapy. Victoria walked into the therapy room under her own power, slowly, carefully, using a cane and leg braces, but walking. She crossed the entire room, 20 feet, while Dr. Chen and his team watched in stunned silence. When she reached the opposite wall, she turned around, grinning through the pain and effort. I told you I could do it, she said. The room erupted in applause. That evening, she walked into the house where Lily was doing homework at the kitchen table. The little girl looked up, saw Victoria standing and walking toward her, and her eyes went huge. You're walking, Lily shrieked, launching herself at Victoria. Ethan moved to intercept, worried about Victoria's balance, but Victoria steadied herself against the counter and caught Lily in a hug. I'm walking, Victoria confirmed, voice thick with emotion. Not perfectly, not without help, but I'm walking. I knew you could do it. I knew it. Lily was crying and laughing. You're the strongest person ever. Second strongest, Victoria corrected, looking over at Ethan. Your dad's the strongest. You're both the strongest, Lily declared, and we're the best family. Ethan wrapped his arms around both of them, and they stood like that in the kitchen, imperfect, beautiful, whole. The Foundation's first rehabilitation center opened 6 weeks later. The ceremony was larger this time. Press coverage, local politicians, people whose lives would be changed by the services offered here. But the moment that mattered most was when Victoria stood at the podium, stood, not sat, and cut the ribbon herself. The crowd went wild. In her speech, Victoria talked about the accident, about the despair that followed, about the slow, painful journey back, about the people who'd stayed when others left. 2 years ago, I thought my life was over, she said, voice carrying across the crowd. I thought I'd lost everything that mattered, but I was wrong. I'd only lost the things I thought mattered. And in their place, I found something better. I found purpose, partnership, family. Her eyes found Ethan and Lily in the front row. I found people who saw me, really saw me, not as a success story or a tragedy, but as a person worth fighting for, worth fighting with. And they taught me that strength isn't about standing alone. It's about having the courage to let people carry you when you can't walk, and the grace to carry them when they can't. She paused, emotion thick in her throat. This center exists because someone believed in me when I'd stopped believing in myself, because someone stayed when leaving would have been easier. And now we're going to pay that forward. We're going to be that person for everyone who walks through these doors. We're going to stay, we're going to fight, and we're going to remind people that they're worth the effort. The applause was deafening. After the ceremony, after the press interviews and the tours and the congratulations, the three of them stood alone in the empty therapy gym. "This is really happening," Victoria said softly, looking around at the equipment, the bright walls, the space that would soon be filled with people fighting their own battles. "It really is," Ethan agreed. "We did this. You did this." "No." She turned to him. "We did this. You, me, and this fierce little girl who reminds us every day why the hard things matter. We did this together." Lily tugged on Victoria's hand. "Can I try the parallel bars?" Victoria laughed. "Sure, sweetheart. Let's see what you've got." They spent 20 minutes playing in the therapy gym, Lily pretending to be a gymnast on the bars, Victoria and Ethan spotting her and cheering her on. And in that moment, in that space built from pain and hope and stubborn determination, they were just a family. Playing, laughing, living, not broken, not fixed, just perfectly, beautifully human. 3 months after the center opened, Ethan found Victoria in the therapy room late at night. She was standing between the parallel bars, no braces, no support, just her own strength. He paused in the doorway, not wanting to interrupt. "I know you're there," she said without turning around. "How long have you been standing?" 5 minutes, maybe 6. She turned carefully to face him. "I wanted to see if I could." "And can you?" "I'm doing it right now, aren't I?" He crossed the room slowly. "You are. You're doing it." "I'm not broken," she said softly. The words she'd said to him once before, but now they carried different weight. "I never was. I was just hurt and healing and learning what I was capable of." "I know. Do you? Because sometimes I think you saw that before I did. You saw someone worth fighting for when I only saw someone damaged." Ethan stopped in front of her, close enough to catch her if she fell, far enough to let her stand on her own. "I saw someone fighting," he said. "That's all I ever saw. Someone who refused to quit even when quitting would have been easier. Someone who built empires from wheelchairs and loved fiercely even when she was scared. Someone extraordinary." "I love you," Victoria whispered. "I don't say it enough, but I do. I love you for staying, for seeing me, for believing we could have this." "I love you too, and I don't need someone who's perfect. I just need someone who stays." She stepped forward, away from the bars, unsupported, and wrapped her arms around his neck. Her legs shook slightly, but they held. "I'm not going anywhere," she promised. "I know." They stood like that, holding each other in the quiet house, no longer therapist and patient, employer and assistant, or any of the other labels that had defined them once. Just two people who'd found each other in the broken places and decided to build something beautiful from the pieces. Eventually, Victoria's legs tired and Ethan helped her sit. They stayed on the floor of the therapy room, backs against the wall, her head on his shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "How different everything is from a year ago. How I almost missed all of this because I was too scared to let anyone in. But you didn't miss it." "No, thanks to a stubborn mechanic who refused to quit even when I was impossible." "You were never impossible, just difficult." She laughed. "That's diplomatic." "I try." They sat in comfortable silence until Victoria said, "Marry me." Ethan's breath caught. "What?" "Marry me," she repeated, turning to look at him. "I know it's not traditional for me to ask. I know we should probably wait longer or do this differently. But I don't want to wait. I want to make this official. I want to be your wife and Lily's, whatever she wants me to be. Mother, stepmom, just Victoria. I don't care about the title. I just want to be family. Really, truly, legally family." Ethan stared at her, heart hammering. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything. Are you?" "Yes," he said immediately. Then again, stronger. "Yes, absolutely yes." Victoria's smile was radiant. "Yeah? Yeah. But we ask Lily first. Make sure she's okay with it." "Deal." They asked her the next morning over breakfast. Lily listened to their explanation about marriage and becoming a family officially and what that would mean, with her serious face on. "So Victoria would be my mom?" she asked. If that's what you want to call me, Victoria said gently. Or you can keep calling me Victoria, whatever feels right to you. Lily thought about this for exactly 10 seconds. Then she looked at Victoria with those wise 6-year-old eyes. You already feel like my mom, she said simply. So yes, I want you to marry Daddy, and I want to be a flower girl. And can we have cake? Victoria laughed through tears. Yes to all of that. Good. Lily went back to her cereal. Can I tell Sophia at school? After we officially announce it, Ethan said. But yes. Okay. This is the best day ever. She said it so matter-of-factly, like it was obvious, like there was no other possible outcome. And maybe there wasn't. Maybe from the moment Ethan walked through Victoria's door with nothing but desperation and determination, this was always where they were heading. Not to perfection, not to some fairy tale ending, but to this, messy, beautiful, real love. Built from broken pieces and stubborn hearts and the revolutionary act of staying. The wedding was small, just close friends, foundation staff, Dr. Chen and his team, Mrs. Chen who'd watched Lily all those months, Simone who'd become family somewhere along the way, and Lily, of course, resplendent in a purple dress she'd picked out herself, carrying flowers and grinning so wide her face might split. They got married in the Foundation's therapy gym, the space that represented everything they'd built together. Victoria walked down the aisle on Ethan's arm, her gait still careful but steady, using only a decorative cane that Lily had helped pick out. When they reached the front, Victoria turned to Lily. Before we do this, she said, voice carrying through the small space, I want to ask you something, Lily. Is it okay if I marry your dad? If I officially become part of your family? Lily nodded seriously. Yes, because you already are. You just need the paper to make it real. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Then let's make it real, Victoria said. The ceremony was short and sweet. They exchanged vows they'd written themselves, promises about staying and fighting and choosing each other every day, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. When the officiant said, "You may kiss," the room erupted in applause. And when they pulled apart, Lily was right there, hugging both their legs, completing the picture. We're married, she announced to everyone. We're a real family now. We were always a real family, Bug, Ethan said, scooping her up. Now we just have paperwork. Important paperwork, Lily insisted. Very important, Victoria agreed, kissing her forehead. At the reception, Ethan stood with Lily on his shoulders, watching Victoria talk with Foundation donors and supporters. She was animated, passionate, fully herself in ways she'd never been when he first met her. Daddy? Lily said from her perch above him. Yeah, Bug? Are you happy? He thought about everything that had led them here. Losing his job, taking a position he was unqualified for, meeting a woman who tested him at every turn, falling in love despite every reason not to, building something meaningful from nothing. I'm so happy I could burst, he said honestly. Good. Me too. Victoria caught his eye across the room and smiled. Not the polite CEO smile or the careful public smile, but the real one. The one she saved for him and Lily. The one that said, home. He smiled back. Later that night, after the guests had left and Lily was asleep in her purple room, Ethan and Victoria stood on the terrace looking out at the city. Mrs. Cole, Ethan said, testing out the name. Mrs. Langford Cole, Victoria corrected. I'm keeping my name professionally, but I like the sound of that too. Me too. She leaned against him and he wrapped his arms around her. Thank you, she said softly. For what? For not leaving, that first week when I was impossible, that first month when I tested you. Every moment when leaving would have been easier than staying. Thank you for choosing this, for choosing us. Best decision I ever made. Even when it was hard, especially then. The hard parts are what made it real. When Victoria turned in his arms, looking up at him. I love you, Ethan Cole, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving you made the right choice. I love you too, and you don't have to prove anything. You just have to stay. I can do that. I know you can. They kissed under the stars, the city lights glittering below them, their daughter sleeping safely inside. And Ethan thought about the man he'd been a year ago, desperate, scared, running out of options and hope. That man would never have believed this was possible. But that man didn't know Victoria yet. Didn't know what it meant to be seen completely and loved anyway. Didn't know that the hardest things could become the most beautiful things if you just refused to quit. Now he knew. Now he was home. And he was never, ever leaving. Because this messy, beautiful, impossible family they'd built from broken pieces and stubborn hearts, this was worth fighting for. This was worth staying for. This was everything.